What's up everybody, welcome to another episode of Minecraft Tutorials. Today I've got some crazy contraption going on for you, and it's just a massive one. I'm going to try to keep this really short and simple. It's going to be really hard to do so. As you can see, I've got mobs falling into chambers. This one's not quite full yet, neither is this one. Actually, probably neither of them are, because I did reset them really shortly. You can see I am using spawners up in some spawn chambers. I have about 6 of them. And they're as compact as I can possibly make them. So what happens here? Well, this is an arena of sorts. It is basically a mob wave machine, and what it does is it releases the chambers in waves. It will do 6 waves because there's 6 chambers, or 6 spawners, depending on how you want to, I guess, say or read it. And back there is basically the entire contraption. It's going to release 1, then wave 2, then wave 3, then wave 4, and what it does is when it releases 1 wave, it releases 1 chamber. When it releases 2 waves, it releases 2 chambers, and when it releases 3 waves, 3 chambers, and so on and so on and so on. A lot of things happen here. I think this is currently set up to only be zombies, but you can mix and match. You can put different spawners in different chambers. You can build this in survival, you can build this in creative, you can build this in Java, you can build this in Bedrock. I have already tested and proven to myself that it's possible. Note about survival though, you will not find spawners in this type of setup, so you probably will have to cheat and give yourself some spawners in order to build this. You can build this with lesser or more configurations, but you got to keep in mind the distance from the center of the arena to the spawners. You want to make sure that you're in constant range to create spawns. So you've been seeing that some of these chambers have been dropping mobs, and that's because I've been in the center the whole time. So the way this works is there's a start button. You hit the start button, it takes about a minute for the machine to set the timer. The timer then starts to count down. It takes about a minute worth of time in order for wave 1 to fully release. Then it takes another minute for wave 2 and another minute for wave 3. So it goes in minute increments. You can probably play with the timing in order to adjust that, but I like the way that this is set up because it gives there enough time for each in between waves to kind of build up more mobs. You kind of want to stay towards the center of this build the whole entire time. That way there's constant range and constant mobs flowing into the chambers, which creates for more fun and more difficulty during the waves. So what I'm going to do is actually just go ahead and jump in. We're going to hit that start button and we're going to see how long I last. So far I've only been able to get to wave 3. Okay, so it didn't last that long. Wave 3, it gets pretty hard, and it didn't seem like I actually allowed for the chambers to fill up in between. I was kind of not paying attention to that. I just got kind of excited. We did do it in survival so that you can kind of see what happens. Keynotes to do this build in. Be sure you have good armor and good weapons. Note number 2, raise the difficulty by filling each chamber to the max, and that's what I was talking about earlier. You want to stay in range of the spawners to make sure that they're constantly spawning in mobs to fill in the chambers. That way each wave gets harder and harder and harder. Let's see here. Try to stay in the center of the arena throughout the waves, and that kind of supports number 2. You know, you want to stay in here the entire time. That way you're in constant range of the spawners. It's okay if you're not, but it will kind of change the difficulty throughout or each time you play. Number 4, combine different mob spawners for more fun. So yep, as you saw right now I have only zombies in here, and you can go up to the spawners above. That's where the blue dots are. So the blue dots right up here, you'll see that we have the spawners right there. Just get some spawn eggs and change the spawners out. So you can put witches, skeletons. You don't want to do slimes because it'll spawn in the big ones and then they will never fall into the release chambers. You can do maybe wither skeletons, pigmen, other stuff like that. So you want to make sure that it's a mob that will go through the chamber and sit in here. If you're doing this in a multiplayer world, your friends can come and cheer you on from the balconies, and because they're in the balconies, they will also be near the spawners to help you keep a constant flow of mobs falling in. Eventually these will fill up and get to the point where they exceed the entity limit and they will just be crammed in there. You'll see them kind of die off as they fall because they've reached the limit of mobs for that space. Do not use food or potions to make your duration within the arena easier. So if you have food or potions that can help or hurt the mobs or yourself, you know, the best way to probably play this is no food, don't increase your health, and just straight melee. That will help make this very difficult and survival-ish. It's crazy what this does. Now some other key things is I have an iron door here. The iron door makes it so that you don't accidentally open the door or keep the door open. You have a button here. That way the mobs do not try to destroy the iron door or a wood door if you had a wood door there. Glass. Glass is probably the best option for the viewports on the lower sections. That way players can look in. Try to have a maybe texture pack that doesn't block the view of your player or your friends trying to watch the match, or the wave counter itself. You can use trap doors like we've got here, but I'm pretty sure spiders can probably go through that. The baby mobs like baby zombies, baby pigmen, stuff like that, they can't jump out, so that's pretty safe there. And yeah, it's pretty cool. So the other thing I want to point out is, well, you have the mob chamber cleanser here. What this does is actually flash lava into the chambers itself to, you know, in case you want to clear out the chambers. Like maybe you want to switch the mobs out and you just want to start anew. Well then, you know, clear out the chambers and it'll start to kill out the mobs, and that just kind of makes it so easier to manage. Now back here you have the entire mechanism itself. You can see I have it stacked, so I have the timer portion of the circuit on top of the wave controller, and then I have a wave counter, or a redstone counter in reality, and then I have two smaller portions which we'll go over as we do the mob or the circuit review. Now I actually am not going to go over the lines which go to the release mechanisms. I'm not going to go over that. That's going to be subjective for you guys depending on how you go about building this. The arena should be the size as you're seeing here on the inside, but the outside, the rest of it can be decorated, and I'm going to show you a quick example of that. So you can decorate the outside, okay, cows, you can decorate the outside however you like, but the inside should be roughly about that size if you're doing 6 chambers. And you may want to also consider having a place to reset the player spawn in case you do die on the inside, and maybe some type of storage place for players to store their items so that they don't lose anything while they're inside the arena. Now you may lose your armor and weapons if you are using that. The zombies especially will pick that up, but that's just, you know, that's the game. So let's move over to circuit review. You can see that I have really quick some color blocks put in place, some certain places, and the way that works is you would imagine that these red blocks are actually sitting on top of here. This is where the comparators are drawing the output from these blocks. This blue block ties into this blue block, the pink one into this pink one, the yellow one into this yellow one, and that's just kind of so you have some type of visual reference of what is being connected where. Okay, so what we've done here is we've actually started the wave arena, the mob wave arena, and you can see that wave 1 is now activated. You didn't see the pulse of the chamber, but that's okay. You'll see that on the next couple of waves. Now what happens is when we activate the wave machine, it's going to unlock this small circuit here for the counter. It's going to release one item into the first hopper and then lock it really quickly. That's what illuminates this one. There goes wave 2. Now wave 1 is active, so it's going to activate the wave controller, which is then going to send a pulse out to the first chamber, and it's going to release chamber 1. Now you just saw wave 2 activate, so what happened there was it activated wave 2. The signal went through the controller 2, which activated chamber 2, and then it bled off and activated chamber 1. Here goes chamber 3, so you should see 3 chambers release. There we go. So what happens, like I said previously, is chamber 1 releases 1 chamber, chamber 2 releases 2 chambers, chamber 3 releases 3 chambers, and so on and so on and so on. And you'll see that again when chamber 4 activates. Now down here in this corner is the timer. And what's happening there is we have a continual flow of items going through the timer circuit itself. The timer is going to lock itself after the time that's been set elapses, and it's going to be switching back and forth, sending pulses back to the wave counter. So it's a repeating pattern until it reaches wave 6. Now there goes wave 4, so it's releasing the appropriate chambers, and that's going to keep happening until it reaches wave 6, like I said. So a closer look into the timer down here. We have a dropper and a hopper flow that's kind of a loop. It's going to be activating the various components here. Right now it should be bleeding back into the dropper, so it's going to activate the dropper. It sends out an off position type of pulse, and you see that it activated chamber 5 and all the other ones before it. So there's quite a few things happening here. I'll try to explain this a little bit more as we go into the build portion itself. But right quick, you're going to see chamber 6 activate really shortly, and then what you're going to see is the whole entire system go through a deactivation phase where it kind of kicks off all of the chambers again to make sure that all of the mobs have dropped, and then it's going to fully reset itself and be ready for the next player. So the timer now should be reaching its pulse point, and we're going to see a pulse bleed into the counter. There we go. It's activating chamber 6, and then above it you're seeing the system reset itself. There goes the deactivation phase. It's going to clean out all of the chambers once more, so you can see all the multi reactions there, and that's it. The system has now gone through all of the waves, cleared out all the chambers, and reset itself, and is now ready for the next player. So now that we've done that, let's get into the build portion of this circuit. Also, just a quick note, just because the system has now been reset and is not functioning, you still will see the timer portion of the build kick off a signal to the counter. But because the system isn't active, the timer now at this stage has no influence over the counter because the counter itself is locked. So don't worry if you see the timer still send out pulses. It will not activate the system until a player has activated the counter. Okay, so let's say this is your arena. It's kind of like a weird kind of Minecraft tennis court. What we're going to start off with is actually building the wave machine or the redstone counter. Now it doesn't matter where you build it. You can build this on this side, this side, this side. It doesn't really matter. This is going to be totally up to you guys. And what you're going to want to do is, well, depending on how big or how small your arena is going to be, you're going to want to have this in view regardless, because you want to know what wave you're in. And we're going to start off with maybe stepping about maybe 3 blocks away, keeping this thing 3 blocks away from the arena itself, because there are some things that are going to happen up front here that you may want to have some space for. So what we're going to do, and this is going to be slightly offset, is we're going to put down a hopper here, and we're going to count back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to get rid of that first hopper, and now what I'm going to do is actually loop this around. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Get rid of this one and make it so that it points back into that last one there. So now we have a set of hoppers that are circulating. If we put an item in here, it's going to just constantly flow all the way around until we make something that makes it stop. I'm going to put a piece of grass back here. We're going to grab our comparators now, and we're actually going to put comparators coming out of the back of these hoppers, so away from the arena. And then what I'm going to do is actually place our red blocks here. It doesn't have to be red blocks. It can be anything that you like, as long as it's a block that will transfer power from a comparator. So now that we have those there, we're going to grab some redstone lamps, which I have right here, and we're going to put our redstone lamps right on top of those blocks there. That's actually going to allow us to visualize what wave we are on. Now, if I put an item in here, you can see that that is just going to constantly flow every time it passes through these, well, these hoppers and these comparators. We don't want that to happen. We want that to be controlled. But before I do, let's grab some more redstone dust, because we're going to need quite a few. And let's see, we're going to put about 1, 2, that's 3, 4, 5, 6. So now we should have 6. We should have 6 pieces of redstone dust. It's going to be like a disco there flashing. But right now, what we're going to need to do is actually build the components that will make this stop and controlled. So for the next steps, you're going to grab a block. You're going to place it right here. You're going to grab a redstone torch. Mine looks like candles in this texture pack, so don't be scared. We're going to place that right up here. And then you're going to grab some redstone dust, and you're going to basically line these hoppers here with redstone. So it's going to be the back hoppers and then this hopper here that is next to the redstone torch. So that's powering all of our hoppers back here. That's going to control the individual kind of movement. And what this is kind of doing right now is locking the hoppers, not allowing those items to flow anymore. So you see we have 6 in here, trapped in this one. That's what we want. Now, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to grab some repeaters. Place one going into this block. Then you're going to come here to the third hopper, place another one right there. You're going to grab some redstone dust and line these 2 repeaters together. And then you're going to place another redstone dust right there. You're going to put a block, 1 block away from that piece of redstone dust. Get another redstone torch, place it right there, and that's what unlocks the hoppers. Then what we need to happen is actually place a repeater here with redstone dust going onto that block there. So you should have something lined up like this. On this side, you're going to grab another comparator, place that going into this block here. Grab another repeater, place that going into that comparator on 2 ticks, and then you're just going to place redstone dust around the end of this comparator to the end of this repeater. And that is basically the redstone counter. Now what we need to do is actually start to build off and create the rest of the circuits, like the wave controller, as I'm calling it. So on the opposite side, you're going to grab either comparators or repeaters. It doesn't really matter because they will both pick up the signal on the opposite side of the block. You're going to put down 6, grab some blocks, put down 5 blocks, then put down repeaters on the opposite side. Then you're going to put down 4 blocks. You should probably have, let's see, 5. So you're going to have the same number of repeaters coming out of the number of blocks that you have. So here I have 6, so I have 6 repeaters. Here I have 5 blocks, so I have 5 repeaters. And these repeaters back here, you may want to just place them on 2 ticks, so it slightly slows down the signal just a bit. So we're going to build this up again. So 4 repeaters this time on 2 ticks. And then you're going to have 3 blocks with 3 repeaters on 2 ticks. Then 2 blocks, 2 repeaters on 2 ticks. And then 1 block with 1 repeater on 2 ticks. So there you have your cell phone type of signal, bar signal strength, I guess. And what you need to do now is basically just grab some redstone, place 1 dot here, then you're going to get 2 dots here, 3 dots, 4 dots, 5 dots, and then 6 dots there. Now here on the other side, you're going to place a repeater coming off that way. That's going to send out a redstone line shooting that way. And what I like to do on this side is actually place 3 repeaters in a row. You're going to place them on this type of tick pattern. 4, 3, and then 4. This creates a 1-second delay. So I like to do that because it kind of slows down the signal. And then we're going to do that again. So 1, 2, 3, 4 ticks, 3 ticks, 4 ticks. We're going to put down another 2, and I think we actually have room for another one. So 4, 3, and then 4. Okay, there we go. So what you're going to want to do is put down an observer coming off of each of these lines. They want to look at this line, detect when it goes on and off. What you're going to do now on the back side of the observers is place down repeaters. And each of these repeaters should be on 4 ticks. This will slow down the pulse enough to create a nice solid signal. Right? Then you're going to put down a block on the ends of each of these repeaters. And then you're going to get more repeaters. Place those on 4 ticks coming off of these blocks here. So you should have something that looks like this. Then, just for visual purposes, you can place down redstone lamps. You don't have to use redstone lamps, you can just use solid blocks. But I like using the redstone lamps right here at the ends of these repeaters because it kind of provides for extra visual to see when things are going off, when each signal is firing. Now, what we need to do is actually place down 2 blocks going across the top of these repeaters here onto the redstone lamps. Then you're going to grab 6 more observers and you're going to place those looking down onto the first set of repeaters right there. Then what you're going to do is place down blocks going between these observers like that. You have like this weird kind of comb situation going on. Grab more repeaters and you're going to place those on top. They can also be on 4 ticks and they should be going towards the back or towards the redstone lamps there, off of the observers there. And then between the observers here on top, you're going to be placing more repeaters on 4 ticks going towards the redstone counter. Alright, so that is all set up. What we need to do now is just grab some redstone dust and place those between the repeaters on top of the back side of these observers. And then you're also going to place redstone dust coming out of these repeaters onto the redstone lamps. Awesome, so now what you have is basically something that is controlling the firing of the chambers. Now the chambers, like I said guys, I'm not going to go over where and how to route those. That's totally up to you depending on how compact you want to make this, because you can stack the lines. And what I mean by that is you can have a line here and then you may have another line here. So you can stack the lines this way if that's what you want to do. However you want to run it, I'm going to leave that up to you. Because, you know, the shape of this thing can totally vary depending on how you want to decorate it or whatnot. Mostly you should have this type of arena on the inside though. So anyway, for the chambers, what you're going to end up having is just lines of redstone dust, right? They're going to go each to their individual chambers, wherever they are. And eventually what's going to happen is they will tie into a release mechanism of some sort. Now, before we show you how to build that, I just want to give you a quick look. Here we have a very simplified version of what that looks like. But if we go over to the tutorial build, you're going to see some different things here. You can see that I have a lot of the lines going underneath the arena itself. So you can see right here, this is probably the most simplest one. It's going to a sticky piston with a redstone torch and a block, and it ties right into our line here. This is line 3. But if we follow all the other ones, they go underground. Now the other ones you can't really see that well. They just go under here and they go into blocks. There's really nothing you can see down here. But if we were to kind of investigate a little bit more and see one that's exposed, we're going to find that those blocks are going into other blocks with other torches. So you can see the redstone line comes this way. It goes into a block with a torch, with a block with a torch, with another block with a torch. So you're going to play around with that to see what works best for you and how you set this build up. However, the main idea here is that the last torch must always be powered. That way the piston is always extended and it's always holding the mobs in their chamber. You don't want them spilling out. So over here, what you're going to end up with is a block with a torch with a sticky piston on top. How am I going to do this? Let's see. Sticky piston out this way. You want it to shoot out horizontally because you want it to be able to have a place for the mobs to stand on and release from. And that's one way you can do this. It's very simple, very easy. You can create a stairway up. So you can probably have the redstone move up like this onto a redstone torch like that, with the sticky piston like this, with the iron door that way. Or you can have, a block with a torch, with another block, with another torch, and that's not what you want there because this has no power. You can see that that is always retracted. That's not what you want. So you're always going to want to have another block with a torch. And that one is powered, so that one will extend the piston and your iron trapdoor. Or, like the first one, you can just have the torch on the side with the piston in front of it, or even on top of it. So that's another way you can do it. We'll do that here as another example. Or you can have, let's see, we'll do another staircase. So we'll have a torch here with maybe a block on top, with a torch here, with another block on top, with another torch here. And you can have, again, you can have the piston out in front, or you can have the piston out on top with the iron trap door, and that should work just fine. So you can see there's lots of different ways you can do the chambers depending on how you have this set up. Now, really quick, guys, before I move on to more of the components, I want to just show you really quick. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 6 blocks high from the bottom of the chambers. I wouldn't recommend building this any higher because then you're distancing yourself more from the actual spawners, which may make it harder to create spawns to fill your chambers with. So just keep that in mind. Okay, quick note, guys, I need to temporarily remove this because what I'm realizing is this actually needs to tie into our button to lever action circuit. So we're going to have a 2-second delay here instead of 3. We're going to tie it into this block here. This block is going to have a redstone torch on it with 2 repeaters coming out just like that. So 1 out of the block, 1 out of the torch. Then we're going to turn 90 degrees and have repeaters shooting out the same direction as that torch. And then back here, we can put down a block diagonally from it behind that torch with a repeater that will power the back of this, or with a torch that will power the back of this repeater. Then we're going to get some redstone dust, and that can loop around like that. This is the output side, so we're going to send out this signal to right here, and that will allow us to have constant on or off situations for the counter itself to reset. So what I'm going to do is actually place a repeater here, and I'm going to then bring this line out kind of like that in a corner, and I'm going to grab a repeater, place that there with a comparator, and then this is where our dropper sits. So we're going to place a dropper right here. We're going to place some hoppers on the side of that dropper, on top of the hopper, and then coming off the side of that hopper above the dropper. So it's a loop. You can see that it flows this way. Now I like to place blocks on top of these hoppers because I want to make sure no additional items fall in there to mess with the timing. So this one here is actually going to get 2 stacks of items. You can see that it powers because nothing's controlling that signal strength. So we actually need to place a comparator here. On compare mode, we need to grab a chest. Place a chest right here behind this comparator, and we're going to fill this one up with 5 stacks of items. Actually, it's the comparator coming out of the dropper that needs to be in compare mode. Right? Okay. Then what we need to do is actually place down another comparator going into that dropper. This is where our timing circuit's going to be. So we're going to have a comparator coming out of the hopper on compare mode. On the opposite side, we're going to have another comparator coming out of the opposite side of the bottom hopper, and that's also going to be in compare mode. Now on this side, we're going to place down a repeater. We're going to place down a repeater going into this side of the hopper. And then you're going to grab more comparators and place those coming into the side of those other 2 comparators that are in compare mode. We're going to grab a chest, place it right there, and another one right there. Now the one to the right is going to have another 5 stacks of items, and the one on the left is going to have 10 stacks of items, just like that. Then what you're going to do is grab some blocks, place a block in between those 2 chests, and another block right there on the left side. This one will have a redstone torch. You're going to grab 2 hoppers, place them looking into each other, and you're going to place 1 single item inside that hopper. Then again, I like to just place 2 blocks on top of those to make sure that nothing falls in there and messes with the tick speed. Okay, so now that we have that in place, what's actually going to happen here is we will have a output signal come off of this repeater. It needs to tie into this signal here. Okay, so now that we have that built, we actually need to create the mechanism that will reset this timing circuit. So we can see that this is the power side, this is the output. So we need this to go into an input for our button to lever action circuit. So what's going to happen is we will build a line coming off of that with our block there. Then we're going to need a torch. So we're going to build a torch here, and we're going to place this. We're going to place 2 repeaters coming out of the block and out of the torch. Then you're going to turn 90 degrees, and we're going to have another 2 repeaters going the same direction as this torch. We're going to grab another block, place that in this corner here, and we're going to grab another torch so that it powers the back side of these 2 last repeaters. We're going to grab more redstone dust and loop it around to the front here. And then what you're going to do is grab, well, either more redstone dust, or depending on how far off you are, you can grab another repeater to make sure that you have enough signal strength for this redstone line that needs to go up this way. Alright, so this is what you're going to end up with. Unfortunately, the timer is probably something that will continuously run. If we go and take a look at our unit that's already set up here, I believe this is always running, so you can see that it is still ticking away here. This will constantly cycle. However, because of the lock, the way this is set up, the way that our counter here is locked currently in this locked position, it will not allow it to run by itself. So this will never constantly be releasing waves. That's the nice thing about this. It has some sort of protection. You can see it pulsed, but nothing advanced. So even though this runs continuously, and you can put like a lever to this if you want, and you can switch it off and on, but I prefer to leave it running just because this is protecting it in general. So you can see we have a completed circuit now. So all you got to do is just press start and have some fun. There's certainly a lot of ways that you guys can make your time in here a lot harder and interesting and just fun. But this is an awesome contraption. I hope you guys like this video. If you guys have any questions, let me know. If you guys rather see me build one completely from the ground up, let me know in the comments field below as well. I will definitely do so in a separate video. There's just so much going on here. I felt this was the best method to display this tutorial. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys liked this episode. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments field below. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Join my Patreon for access to my Discord, or to the Patreon area of my Discord, where you can find out a lot of other behind the scenes things. And be sure to join my Discord as well for information on the channel, the series, and lots of other things. Until next time, guys, I hope you had fun, enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you all in the next episodes of Minecraft Tutorials. See you later.